When I saw my ex-wife again, it was because she had just acquired the company I worked for. In an instant, she became my boss. This was the same woman who had left me behind time and time again to chase after the man she considered her true love. It was because of him that we had divorced in the first place. "Listen up, everyone. Tonight we're having a team-building event with the branch office," my team leader announced to the department. "They're sending all their prettiest single ladies. So for all you single guys, this is a golden opportunity you don't want to miss." A buzz of excitement went through my colleagues as they rushed to sign up. It was an open secret that this was really just a matchmaking event sponsored by the company. I had just finished my work for the day and was about to add my own name to the list when my ex-wife, Clara, appeared out of nowhere. "Leo, get your things ready. You'll be working overtime tonight," she said, her voice leaving no room for argument. She took a pen and decisively scratched my name off the sign-up sheet before gesturing for me to follow her into her office. The moment the door slammed shut, she grabbed my tie, pulling me forward until I was pinned against her desk. "They can go, but you can't," she said, her eyes narrowed. "If I ever find out you're sneaking off to one of these matchmaking events, I will make your life here impossible." Clara's arrogant tone brought a flood of unpleasant memories to the surface, and a hot surge of anger rose in my chest. "What I do is none of your business anymore," I said, pushing her hand away before turning and walking out of her office. My colleague Mark saw me storm out and immediately came over to my desk. "Leo, what did you do to get on the new CEO's bad side? It feels like she's constantly targeting you." I just shook my head as I sat down, not wanting to get into it. "That's what's so strange," Mark said, leaning in and lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Do you think maybe she has a thing for you? You know, trying to get your attention by giving you a hard time?" As soon as he said it, other colleagues nearby started to chime in with their own theories. "Mark has a point," one of the women from accounting said. "She's always asking you to stay late and work overtime with her." "That's right," another added. "And last week she specifically told us to save the last of the red bean mooncakes for you." I was getting impatient with their gossip. "Everyone, just stop," I said, my voice sharp. "She has a boyfriend. In fact, they're probably about to get remarried." I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed my bag, clocked out, and headed for the elevators, leaving them to speculate among themselves. Of course, I knew it was true. As the man she had cheated on for the better part of 5 years, I was intimately familiar with the details of her other life. I had assumed that seeing Clara every day would make me miserable, but the truth was, my heart was numb to her. We had been married for 5 years, and we dated for 4 years before that. 9 years in total. We had survived the proverbial 7-year itch, but in the end, our relationship still crumbled. The moment my feelings for her died completely was on our 5th wedding anniversary. On that day, she had rented out the city's iconic Twin Towers for her beloved Julian, projecting a 24-hour loop of photos and messages celebrating his return to the country. That night, the celebration culminated in a spectacular light show, with hundreds of drones painting shimmering images in the sky above a sea of roses. The city's biggest social media accounts were all buzzing about the passionate kiss beneath the lights, and the story went viral, with thousands of strangers sending their well wishes. Even the official Twin Towers account posted about them, calling them a golden couple, a perfect match destined to grow old together. While countless people were celebrating their love story online, I was at the hospital, sitting by her father's bedside. The romantic roses, the stunning drone display, the passionate atmosphere, all of it felt like it was happening in another universe, one that had nothing to do with me. So this was what Clara had meant when she'd sent a curt text saying she wouldn't be home that night. I thought I had built up a sufficient wall around my emotions, but I could still feel my eyes begin to well up. Her father, who had been quietly looking at his phone, let out a deep sigh. I glanced up, realizing he must have seen the news. With a story that big, the notifications were impossible to avoid. "Leo, just let it go," he said, his voice weak. "Let yourself be free of this. She isn't worth it. You two should get a divorce." I initially thought he was just trying to comfort me, telling me not to let it get to me. So his final words caught me by surprise. "Dad, please just focus on getting better," I told him. "Nothing else is important right now." He had always treated me like a son, and all I wanted was for him to recover. The matter of the divorce was between Clara and me, and I didn't want him to carry that burden. But he just waved his hand dismissively. "Leo, I don't have much time left. My only regret would be leaving this world, knowing you're still tied to her. I never should have let you get involved in this family's mess. I can't control her, but your life is still long. You need to live it for yourself." The old man shakily reached into the bedside cabinet and pulled out a bank card and a document that looked like a donation declaration, handing them to me. I immediately tried to refuse, but he insisted. "She hasn't come to visit me once since I've been in this hospital. You've been the one taking care of me, and you deserve this. Don't worry, it's money I saved up for you. If you don't take it, my conscience won't be clear." He pressed the card into my hand and urged me to leave. "Go on home now. There's a nurse on duty tonight. And hurry up and get that divorce sorted out." After leaving the hospital room, I sat in my car for a long time, just holding my phone. As I hesitated, all the memories of the past 9 years flashed through my mind. I had been lying to myself, telling myself that her affair with Julian was over, that it was a thing of the past. It was the only way I could endure the marriage. But thinking about it now, I realized it had all been a self-deception. I took out my phone and dialed her number. She hung up on me. I called again. Hung up. I called 7 times in a row, each rejection only strengthening my resolve. On the 8th try, she finally answered. Her voice was cold and distant. "What is it?" I had planned to be direct, but the words that came out were, "Where are you?" "Working overtime," she said flatly, though I could clearly hear Julian's laughter in the background. I sighed, angry at myself for even asking, for lowering myself to that level when I already knew the answer. "Clara," I said, my voice firm, "let's meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning at 8:30. We're getting a divorce." There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then her voice came back, laced with impatience. "Is this really how you want to be? If you need a formal divorce agreement, I can have one sent to you. You can bring it with you tomorrow." With that, I hung up the phone and drove back to the house we once shared. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing, determined to take only the things that belonged to me. As I packed, I realized just how much of our life together was built on my one-sided efforts. The matching toothbrushes, the his and hers outfits, the couple's jewelry sets. She had never used any of them. Many were still in their original, unopened boxes. The difference between love and indifference is starkly clear in these small details. She had never truly loved me, and I had been blind to something so simple. Even our wedding photos told the same story. In every picture, I was smiling broadly while she maintained a cool, distant expression, a physical space between us that mirrored the emotional one she always kept. I moved my things into the small house I had bought before we were married. After tidying up, I slept more soundly than I had in years. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming into my bedroom and felt a sense of peace I hadn't known for a long time. After getting ready, I drove to the Civil Affairs Bureau. I parked my car and waited in the lobby for Clara. While I waited, I scrolled through my phone and saw a new post from Julian. It was a 9-photo grid featuring roses, a wedding ring, pictures of them kissing intimately, and shots of a fancy hotel room. The caption read, "After all this time, it's still you." I quietly took a screenshot. I had expected to feel a familiar pang of devastation, but surprisingly, after just one night of resolve, my heart felt different. It still hurt, but the pain was dull, nowhere near as sharp as I thought it would be. I now had fresh, undeniable evidence of her infidelity, which would only help my case. I waited at the bureau from the moment it opened until the staff started leaving for their lunch break, but Clara never appeared. A kind staff member approached me. "Sir, we close for lunch at 11:30 and won't be processing any more applications until this afternoon." I nodded. "That's all right." Seeing the divorce papers in my hand, she offered some gentle advice. "Perhaps she doesn't actually want to go through with the divorce. Maybe you should try talking to her again." I just shook my head. "She's probably still in bed with her lover." The staff member looked taken aback by my bluntness, and I didn't want any more advice. I pulled out my phone and called Clara again. This time she answered immediately. "What is it now?" she asked. "I'm at the Civil Affairs Bureau. When are you getting here?" There was a short pause before she replied, her tone clearly annoyed. "I'm busy. We can talk about this at home tonight." She hung up before I could say another word. As I was about to leave, the same staff member from before spoke up again. "If she refuses to show up, you can file for a contested divorce online." She pointed toward a sign at the far end of the hall. I thanked her and, after grabbing a quick lunch, followed the instructions on the sign, uploaded all my information, and officially filed a lawsuit for divorce. That afternoon, I went to the supermarket to pick up some necessities for my new place. By the time I got home and finished unpacking, it was already dark. I was just about to order some takeout when a call from Clara came through. "Why aren't you back yet?" she demanded as soon as I answered. I was confused for a moment. She must have just gotten home herself. Then I realized that since I hadn't taken many of my things, she probably hadn't even noticed I was gone. Hearing my silence, she continued, her tone softening slightly. "I bought you a present. I cut her off. "Did you receive the subpoena yet?" "What subpoena?" "The court subpoena," I said plainly. "Since you didn't want to come sign the papers, I had to apply for a divorce through the courts. I've already received the notice, so you should have gotten yours by now." "Leo, are you insane? Why on earth are we getting a divorce?" she yelled into the phone. "Since you and Julian are so open about your relationship now, you should probably make it official and give him proper status. I'm just trying to make things easier for both of you. Just sign the papers, Clara." After I finished speaking, I hung up. My mind was made up, and there was nothing more to say. My priority now was to order dinner. About half an hour later, I heard the distinct sound of high heels clicking on the pavement outside my door, followed by a key turning in the lock. The door swung open, and Clara walked in. She was wearing a striking wine-red dress, her brown curly hair framing a face that was, by any measure, beautiful. But her expression was stormy, a cloud of anger hanging around her that ruined the effect. In the past, whenever she looked at me like that, I would immediately rush to appease her, regardless of who was at fault. She had always been like the moon, beautiful but impossibly high and out of reach while I was just a shadow. But now, looking at her, I felt absolutely nothing. It was amazing how quickly the filter of affection could be removed. Her arrival was a stark reminder that I needed to change the locks. Clara swept into the room, bringing with her a strong scent of jasmine perfume. I frowned instinctively. It wasn't her usual scent. It was the cologne Julian wore. They must have been close enough for the scent to transfer onto her clothes. She placed a small, elegant box on the table and opened it to reveal a Rolex green submariner. I gave it a brief, indifferent glance. This was her pattern. After every argument, she would toss a gift at me as if that would erase everything. This was the fourth time she had given me this exact same watch. Seeing my lack of reaction, her expression darkened. In her mind, she had extended a peace offering, and my failure to accept it was a sign of ingratitude. "Have you signed the papers?" I asked, breaking the silence. "Or is there some financial issue you think we need to split?" I truly didn't understand her hesitation. We had signed a comprehensive prenuptial agreement before we got married, largely at the insistence of her best friend Chloe. Chloe had never liked me and had always championed Julian as the right man for Clara. The prenup was her idea, a way to ensure I couldn't claim any of Clara's assets in a divorce. Now, ironically, that agreement was making my exit much simpler. All she had to do was sign. "Julian is back in town. What's so wrong with us throwing him a welcome party?" she asked defensively. "There's nothing wrong with that," I replied evenly. "Then what are you so upset about?" "What does a welcome party for him have to do with our divorce?" I asked. It was the first time I had ever challenged her so directly. She stared at me, a look of surprise on her face that quickly turned into a sneer. "Is this because I didn't invite you to the party? Do you think I'm playing some kind of mind game with you?" she scoffed. "And why would I invite you? Don't you know how you act every time Julian is around? You get cold and quiet and ruin the atmosphere for everyone. What would be the point of bringing you?" Her words were laced with accusation, but I refused to argue. Since there are no shared finances to dispute, just sign the agreement. A heavy silence fell between us. After a long moment, Clara spoke through gritted teeth. "I know you're just throwing a tantrum because I didn't take you to the party. Fine. How about this? We'll host a dinner for them here tomorrow night. You can make all the food. Oh, and Julian doesn't like cilantro, so make sure you don't use any." Without another look at me, she turned and left. I rubbed the bridge of my nose, trying to soothe a budding headache. Her thought process was baffling. She seemed to genuinely believe I was her personal chef and servant. After I finished my takeout, I opened the court's app on my phone, and without a second of hesitation, clicked the option to file for a final judgment. Thanks to new regulations, I could bypass the mandatory cooling-off period and the need for both parties to sign. All I had to do now was wait for the court to process my application. The judgment could come as quickly as 24 hours or take up to 2 weeks. The next day I spent my time getting my new house in order, which included changing the lock on the front door and setting a new passcode. Around 4:30 p.m., my phone started ringing incessantly. It was the specific ringtone I had assigned to Clara. I muted the phone and continued cooking dinner. Half an hour later, I checked my phone and saw a long list of missed calls and angry messages from her. Just then, she called again, and I decided to answer, worried that she was tying up my line in case of a real emergency. "Leo, have you lost your mind? Where are you?" she yelled. "I'm at home," I said calmly. "You're at home? I'm at the house and you're not here. Everyone has arrived. Why isn't the food ready yet?" She paused, then continued in a huff. "Forget it. If I wait for you, we'll be eating at midnight. Come to the Glee restaurant right now. If you don't show up, you can forget about me ever signing those papers." She hung up. I thought about it for a moment and decided to go. My only motivation was the slim chance that getting her to sign the papers in person would speed up the legal process. I grabbed the divorce agreement I had already signed and drove to the restaurant. When I pushed open the door to the private room, an awkward silence fell over the crowded table. I scanned the room and saw there wasn't an empty seat. Julian, who was sitting next to Clara, quickly flagged down a waiter to bring in an extra chair and a place setting for me. Once I was seated, Chloe, Clara's friend, started making snide remarks. "This restaurant really needs an update," she said loudly. "This was supposed to be a table for 12, and now we've crammed 13 people around it. It's so tight." Clara remained silent, but Julian tried to smooth things over. It's all right. A little crowding just makes it feel more lively. After a few drinks, someone suggested a game of truth or dare. The first spin of the bottle landed on Julian, and he chose truth. Chloe shot a challenging look in my direction before asking him, "So, who did you really come back for this time?" Julian put on a show of being embarrassed before answering with forced courage. "I came back for Clara." He then glanced at me, his eyes filled with smug provocation. Chloe clapped her hands. "Oh, it's true love. Clara, you two missing each other back then was a mistake. Now you have a chance to set things right." The implication was clear. I was the mistake that needed correcting. Julian smiled, gazing lovingly at Clara. "My mother was sick back then, and needed urgent medical care overseas. I was afraid of holding you back, Clara, so I broke up with you. That's why we were separated for so long." As he spoke, Clara's eyes sparkled with an adoration she had never once shown me. Watching this touching reunion of the perfect couple, I felt a slow smile spread across my face. It was almost comical, as if I were the villain who had cruelly torn them apart. A man sitting next to me leaned over and whispered, "Leo, if I were you, I'd want to find a hole to crawl into right now. Why are you even sitting here between them?" I nodded in agreement with him, then clapped my hands loudly, drawing everyone's attention. "Congratulations," I announced to the room. "I sincerely wish you two a happy reconciliation. May you be the perfect couple, grow old together, and have many beautiful children." My outburst seemed to remind them that I was, in fact, still Clara's legal husband. Julian looked aggrieved as he stood up and raised his glass to me. "I'm sorry, Leo. I forgot you were here. Clara and I have moved on from the past, so please don't take any of this personally. I apologize. This drink is for you." He was about to down the entire glass when Clara stopped him. "Julian, you've had enough to drink. It's just a game. There's no need to apologize to him," she said softly. Then she turned to me, her usual haughty expression returning. "Leo, it's just a game. Don't take everything so seriously." I ignored her and smiled directly at Julian. "The hotel upstairs has rooms available. Why don't I book one for you two? Consider it a wedding gift from me. Oh, and here's a little extra gift," I added, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "This is her ovulation period. If you're serious about wanting a child, you'd better get to it." Chloe, ever Clara's defender, immediately jumped into action. She snatched a wine glass from the table and threw it in my direction. "Leo, you watch your damn mouth!" The glass shattered against the wall behind me. Julian quickly stepped in, playing the peacemaker. "Leo, please don't get the wrong idea. There's nothing going on between Clara and me." It was his standard line, designed to make me look like a jealous fool and drive a wedge between Clara and me, allowing him to swoop in and play the part of the comforting, long-suffering friend. "Of course there's nothing going on," I replied flatly. "You're not husband and wife." Clara's face grew dark with fury. "How many times do I have to tell you there's nothing between me and Julian? You're always making things awkward with your petty suspicions. Every time I take you anywhere, you just embarrass me. Apologize to Julian and everyone else here, and I'll let this go." I looked her straight in the eye and let out a soft laugh. "Clara, what authority do you have to let this go? As my ex-wife?" The words hung in the air, freezing the room. A smirk played on Julian's lips. "Leo, are you still upset about the light show?" he asked, deliberately bringing up the anniversary incident to humiliate me. "If it bothers you that much, then I'll apologize. I honestly didn't know it was your 5th wedding anniversary. I just thought it was a welcome home party." Clara took a deep breath, visibly trying to control her temper. "Leo, grow up. Do you really think threatening me with divorce is going to solve anything? Julian has already apologized. Don't push it." Others around the table began to chime in, quickly shifting all the blame onto me. Yeah, just say you're sorry and let's move on. I wiped my mouth with a napkin, said nothing, and stood up to leave. Leo, stop right there, Clara called out. You weren't even home that night either, so what right do you have to criticize me? So what if I didn't give you the money you asked for when your dad was in the hospital? Her words stopped me in my tracks, my hand frozen on the doorknob. Behind me, I could hear her mocking laughter as she pulled a bank card from her purse and slapped it on the table. Is this all about money? Here, $1 million for the surgery. Now come back here and apologize to Julian. I turned around slowly and looked at her, my voice calm but cold. It was your dad who was in the hospital, Clara, not mine. With that, I walked out of the room. Driving home, I couldn't figure out why she was dragging this out. Signing the divorce papers should have been the easiest thing for her. It would have been a win for everyone. I had expected her to sign the papers, announce the divorce at dinner, endure a few jokes at my expense from her friends, and then bask in their blessings for her future with Julian. As long as she signed, I would be free. Their gossip no longer had the power to hurt me. Later that night, I opened my social media app out of boredom, and the first post I saw was from Julian. It was a photo of a clearly intoxicated Clara, held tightly in his arms. The caption read, "Good night, my baby." Looking at it, I felt absolutely nothing. 5 days later, a notification arrived. I had received the court's final ruling. The divorce was granted. At that moment, it felt like I was being reborn. I was finally, truly free. No more walking on eggshells, no more enduring Clara's moods, and no more emotional turmoil from Julian's smug social media posts. I was in such a good mood when I left work that I spontaneously invited my colleagues out for a celebratory dinner and karaoke. I hadn't felt that genuinely happy in a very long time. It was after 11 when I finally got home. As I stepped out of the elevator, I saw a figure standing in the shadows by my front door. A woman in a white dress with long, wavy hair. In the eerie green light of the emergency exit sign, she looked like a ghost. For a second, my sober mind was genuinely spooked. Then I recognized her. It was Clara. She saw the look of shock on my face. "What are you doing at my apartment this late at night?" I asked sharply. She bit her lip, seeming surprised that my first words were an interrogation rather than a question of concern. She pointed a stubborn chin toward my door. "You changed the passcode. I couldn't get in." I almost laughed. I walked past her, unlocked the door with my fingerprint, and was about to close it behind me when she grabbed the handle. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" she asked, stepping inside before I could answer, as if she still owned the place. She wandered through the apartment, taking in all the new furniture and decorations I had added. Her eyes finally landed on the Rolex box sitting on the edge of the dining table. "Found what you were looking for?" I asked, holding the door open. "Can you leave now?" She held her head high, trying to appear composed. "I gave that to you. It's yours. And for the record, I never agreed to this divorce." I sighed, my patience wearing thin. "The court has already issued its ruling. Whether you agreed or not is irrelevant now. And if the watch is mine, then I can do whatever I want with it." I strode over, picked up the watch and its box, and walked toward the trash can. Clara panicked and rushed to stop me. "You've been making a fuss about this for weeks. Isn't this what you wanted?" she cried out. In the struggle, the box fell to the floor, and the watch, its cushion, and a small photograph spilled out. I bent down to pick them up, but Clara screamed and snatched the photo from my hand, looking at me in shock. I didn't even glance at her. I tossed the watch and the box into the trash can by the door. "Relax," I said calmly. "I only just saw the actual photo now. You have it, so you can go." Her eyes turned red as she trembled. The actual photo? I nodded. If you want the others, I can send them to you. Julian was very generous. He sent me plenty of them for free. You can print them all out and admire them with your new husband. Her mind seemed to stall for a moment as the implication sank in. The photo had clearly been a selfie, taken from an angle only one of the people in the picture could have managed. And since she had asked Julian to buy the watch for her, the only person who could have put the photo in the box was him. The fact that there were more photos proved it wasn't an accident. Leo, Julian and we're, she started to say. Innocent, I know, I believe you, I said, cutting her off. Isn't it ironic? Clara left my apartment in a daze. After she was gone, I sat on my couch for a long time. 9 years is a long time. You can't say there were no feelings at all. But thankfully there wasn't much left, and soon there would be nothing. For the next 3 months, I didn't see or hear from Clara at all. Time dulled the remaining emotions, and I reached a point where I truly felt nothing about our past. So when she appeared at my doorstep again one evening, I felt no surprise or confusion. She was just another person. I glanced at her, turned to unlock my door, and was about to go inside when she grabbed my arm. We're neighbors now, she said simply. I looked at her, confused. I bought the apartment next door, she explained. It's closer to the office. I nodded, pulling my hand back. Leo, come over for dinner, she said, pointing toward her open door, from which the smell of food was wafting. It's good to get along with your neighbors, right? I don't want to intrude, I said, waving my hand dismissively. It's no trouble at all. I made sweet and sour ribs. Don't you remember? In college, you told me it was your favorite. It was still my favorite dish, but I was afraid that if this continued, I would grow to hate it. A proper ex-girlfriend should remain a ghost of the past. I turned and went into my own apartment. As I closed the door, a strange thought occurred to me. If she was living next door, we would be running into each other constantly. Would she start bringing Julian and Chloe around? The thought filled me with an inexplicable sense of dread. The next day at work, my team leader walked over to my desk with a well-dressed woman. It was Clara. He introduced her as our new general manager, and then took her to meet the other department heads. I was frozen in place, my mind reeling. She moves in next door one night, and the next morning she's my boss. What was going on? The day passed without any direct incident, and I headed home. On my way to the subway, a pink sports car pulled up beside me, and the window rolled down to reveal Clara's face. Get in, she said with a smile. I know you can't drive today because of the license plate restrictions. I hesitated for a moment, glancing at my rideshare app, then opened the car door and got in. The rush hour traffic was slow. The second part of that animated movie you like, The Legend of the White Snake, is out, she said. We could go see it before we head home. I remembered telling her how excited I was for the sequel, but at the time she had dismissed it, saying cartoons were for children. I can't, I said. I already have plans to see it with someone tomorrow. She glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Who? A friend? A guy or a girl? A blind date, I said simply. She slammed on the brakes, causing the car behind us to honk loudly. She quickly refocused on the road. After a long silence, she asked, Really? You're in such a hurry to move on? It's an important part of life, I replied. Of course I'm in a hurry. The next day, I arrived at the cafe for my meeting. The woman was already there. It turned out she wasn't a stranger. She was a junior from my university named Sarah. We had known each other from the debate team. We had both agreed to the blind date mostly to appease our families, and meeting someone familiar made it less awkward. We had just sat down when Clara appeared, pulled up a chair, and sat down next to me. Sarah, right? Clara said, smiling sweetly. Nice to meet you. I'm Leo's ex-wife. I just thought I should clarify a few things the matchmaker might have left out. Leo and I still have a lot of unresolved issues between us. Our divorce was just an accident. You should probably leave." But Sarah, who was studying to be a lawyer, just smiled back coolly. "Clara, I thought you and Julian were finally making things official." "And Senior," she said, turning to me, "you know I handle divorce cases. If you ever need help, feel free to call me. My rates are reasonable, but if the case is particularly outrageous," she said, her eyes flicking back to Clara, "I'd be happy to waive my fee." With that, she grabbed her bag and left, leaving me speechless and Clara fuming. "What's your relationship with her?" Clara demanded as I stood up to leave. "You ruined my blind date and now you're asking me who she is?" I sighed and started to walk away. She grabbed my arm, thinking I was going to chase after Sarah. "No, wait. I came here to talk to you," she said quickly. "Let's get remarried." I pulled my arm away. "I'm not interested in being part of a love triangle." "It's not like that. I'm not with Julian anymore. I found out he took my father's money and disappeared years ago. He only came back because he'd spent it all and was looking for someone to support him. He even went to the hospital and did something that landed my father in the ICU." "Enough," I said, cutting her off. "Are you done?" "I'm serious. I really want us to get remarried." "We're divorced, Clara. That means we have no relationship. Even if you've realized your mistakes, the things you did have left scars that can't be fixed." I turned and walked out of the restaurant. On the way home, I sent a message to Sarah to apologize. She replied kindly, saying she had partly said those things on purpose to help me out and congratulated me on getting out of a bad situation. Life returned to a simple routine. I went to work, kept a polite and professional distance from Clara, and went home. Then, a new major project came down from headquarters, and Clara specifically assigned me to lead it. "You'll be accompanying me on a business trip tomorrow," she informed me. Work was work, and I wasn't going to pass up a promotion because of personal history. The business meetings were held at a hot spring resort. After a long day of negotiations, I went back to my room to relax. About an hour later, there was a knock on my door. It was Clara, standing there in a bathrobe with no makeup on. "Let's go to the hot springs," she said. I refused without a moment's hesitation. A crack appeared in her composed expression. "Leo, I know I wronged you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "These past few months without you have been so hard. I became your boss and moved next door just to be near you, but you completely ignore me. I know you hate me and it's my fault, but can't you just give me one more chance?" Her eyes were red and full of desperate hope. For a moment, my silence seemed to give her encouragement. She excitedly grabbed my hand, but I felt no pity. I pulled my hand away, looked her directly in the eyes, and said slowly and clearly, "There is no future for us. It is absolutely impossible." Tears streamed down her face. She stared at me for a long moment before turning and leaving, looking utterly defeated. A mirror that has been shattered can never be made whole again. The cracks don't just disappear, they deepen over time, creating a rift that can never be filled.